All right, so are you ready to dive into this Motley Fool article about Coca-Cola?
Oh yeah, I definitely took a look, and I think it'll be interesting to break down with you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all know, right, that Coke is like this huge company.
Global giant.
Yeah, global giant.
Yeah.
But their stock performance hasn't exactly been stellar.
Yeah, the article even mentions that they were one of the Dow's worst performers last year.
Right. It makes you wonder why that is because, I mean, they sold a ridiculous amount of product last year.
Oh yeah, 33.3 billion cases in 2023 alone. That's just wild.
Yeah. So, like, what's the deal? Why isn't the stock reflecting that success?
Well, the article points out that a big chunk of their revenue growth, so it is growing, is coming from price increases.
Ah, so they're making more money per can or bottle or whatever.
Exactly. But the question is, are people actually buying more Coke?
Right, because if they're just raising prices and people are buying the same amount, then that might not be sustainable.
Yeah, that's the catch. And, well, the article says their sales volume only went up by like 1%.
1%. Wow, that's pretty tiny considering how big they are.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if people are starting to maybe cut back or look for other options.
Well, I mean, everything's gotten more expensive, right? So maybe people are just being more careful with their spending.
It's definitely a factor, and we've seen other companies try to do the same thing, raise prices to keep up with cost, but it doesn't always work out.
So how is Coke how are they managing this whole thing? Are they just hoping people keep buying Coke even if it gets more expensive?
Well, that's the interesting part. They've actually managed to raise prices without losing a lot of customers.
Really? So people are willing to pay more for Coke.
Yeah.
I guess that says a lot about their brand loyalty.
Oh, absolutely. Coke is more than just a drink. It's like this cultural icon. It's a feeling, a memory.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when you think about Coke, you think about all those classic ads and jingles.
Exactly. They've built up this incredible brand equity over decades, and that can be a real advantage in a crowded market.
It's like they have this built-in trust with consumers that not a lot of companies have.
And don't forget about their global reach. I mean, 33 billion cases, that's reaching billions of people.
It's mind-boggling when you think about it. They're in practically every corner of the world.
That kind of scale gives them some serious leverage in negotiations with suppliers and distributors.
Okay, so they're a global powerhouse with a loyal customer base, but what about the actual numbers, like their profitability?
Oh, they're doing very well there, too. The article mentions their operating profit margin hit 29%.
29%? Wow, and that's during a time when a lot of companies are struggling.
Right. It shows they're very efficient at controlling costs and squeezing profit out of each can of Coke they sell.
So are they just swimming in cash then? Are they a cash cow, as they say?
Well, high profit margin is great, but it's important to see how they're using that cash.
Right. Are they reinvesting it wisely? Are they innovating, expanding into new markets?
Exactly. Those are the things that will determine their long-term success.
Well, the article does mention their dividend, which is
Mhm.
over 3%, way higher than the Dow average.
Yeah, and they've also been buying back stock about $1.2 billion worth in recent months.
So they're definitely rewarding their shareholders. But the article also says that their stock valuation seems reasonable.
Yeah, especially compared to some faster-growing companies like Monster Beverage.
So what does that mean exactly, this stock valuation thing?
Well, think of it like buying a house. You wouldn't just look at the price tag, you'd consider the size, location, condition, and compare it to other similar houses.
Right, so a stock valuation, you're trying to figure out if the price is a fair reflection of the company's worth.
Exactly. And in Coke's case, it seems like their stock price might be a bit undervalued.
Okay, so we've talked about their global reach, their brand power, their profitability, their stock valuation. It's a lot to take in.
We've definitely covered a lot of ground, but the big question remains, is Coca-Cola stock a buy, sell, or hold for 2025?
That's what we're here to figure out, right?
Yeah. And that's where things get really interesting. We'll delve into that more after a quick break, so stay tuned. Okay, so we're back, and we were just talking about how Coke's doing pretty well financially.
Yeah, but I guess the question is, can they keep it upright?
Exactly. And this Motley Fool article dives into that. It looks at their growth prospects and some of the challenges they're facing.
And they didn't seem super optimistic about their growth, did they?
No, they actually gave the stock a hold rating.
A hold?
Yeah.
Huh, so not a buy or a sell, just kind of like, meh.
Yeah, and I think a big reason for that is that 1% volume increase we talked about.
Yeah, that doesn't exactly screen growth potential, does it?
Not really. It's pretty weak, especially for a company as big as Coke.
So is that like a sign of things to come? Are people just not that into Coke anymore?
Well, that's what we need to figure out. Is it just a blip or is it a trend?
Yeah. Are there other things going on that might be affecting their growth?
Definitely one thing the article mentions is the whole health and wellness trend.
Right, people are more aware of sugar and stuff like that, and maybe they're choosing other drinks.
Exactly. And that's a big challenge for Coke. I mean, they're known for sugary sodas.
So they can't just ignore it. They have to adapt somehow.
Absolutely. They need to innovate, come up with new products that appeal to those health-conscious consumers.
But at the same time, they don't want to alienate their existing customers who love their classic sodas.
It's a tough balancing act for sure.
It's like, remember what happened to Kodak when digital cameras came along?
Oh yeah, they were so focused on film they completely missed the boat.
And Coke doesn't want to be the next Kodak, right?
No, definitely not. And to be fair, they have been trying to diversify.
Yeah, they have like bottled water and teas and stuff.
Right, but the question is it enough? Are they moving fast enough?
And are those new products really catching on? I mean, are people as excited about Coke's water as they are about like Coke Classic?
That's a good point. It's not just about offering more options, it's about creating products that people truly love.
What about acquisitions? I mean, could Coke just buy their way into these new markets?
It's definitely a possibility. We've seen other companies do it successfully.
Like who?
Well, PepsiCo, for example, they bought Quaker Oats, Tropicana Frito-Lay.
Wow, so they're not just drinks anymore. They're like a whole snack food empire.
Exactly. And those acquisitions have been very profitable for them.
So maybe Coke could do the same thing, but I guess it's risky, right?
Oh, yeah. You have to choose the right companies and make sure they fit with your overall strategy.
And you can't overpay. That's always a danger.
Right. You don't want to end up with a bad deal.
Okay, so acquisitions are an option, but what about the competition? I mean, Coke isn't the only player in the game.
Oh, yeah. Competition is fierce in the beverage industry.
You've got PepsiCo, obviously, and then all these newer companies like Monster.
Right. And they're all fighting for the same customers.
So Coke has to defend their turf while also trying to expand into new areas.
It's like playing both offense and defense at the same time.
And then on top of all that, you've got the whole global economic situation.
Right. Things like inflation, supply chain issues, geopolitical events.
All that stuff can affect Coke's business.
Absolutely. For example, inflation can eat into their profits if they can't raise prices enough.
And supply chain problems can make it hard to get their products to stores.
We saw that during the pandemic, remember, when everything was backed up.
Yeah, that was a mess. So Coke has to deal with all that too.
It's a lot to juggle, for sure.
So it sounds like there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding Coke's future.
Yeah, it's not a clear-cut case either way, which is why the Motley Fool article landed on a hold rating.
It's like they're saying wait and see what happens.
Yeah, it's not a screaming buy, but it's not a sell either.
So what should investors be looking for then as we head into 2025?
That's a great question, and I think there are a few key things to keep an eye on, which we can discuss after a quick break.
All right, so we're back and ready to wrap up this Coke deep dive.
Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting one for sure.
It really has. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but what stands out to you the most about Coke?
You know, what really gets me is how they're trying to balance this whole profit thing with the changing consumer landscape.
Yeah, it's like they're this giant company making tons of money, but then you've got this whole shift towards healthier options.
Exactly. It's like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
It really is. And, you know, the Motley Fool article leaned towards a hold for the stock in 2025.
Yeah, they're not really sure which way it's going to go.
But I got to say, when I think about Coke, I think about all those iconic ads and jingles.
Right. The Polar Bears, the Share a Coke campaign.
Exactly. It makes me wonder if maybe their brand power alone is enough to keep them going.
Well, brand power is definitely important, but it's not a guarantee of success.
You're right.
Okay.
The consumers have so many choices these days.
Exactly. Coke can't just rely on nostalgia. They have to prove they're still relevant.
So what should investors be watching for then as we head into 2025?
I'd say keep an eye on their new products. Are they coming up with stuff that people actually want?
Yeah, not just like different flavors of Coke, but something truly innovative.
Exactly. Are they investing in research and development? Are they trying to anticipate future trends?
Like what kind of trends?
Well, think about the rise of plant-based milk alternatives. A few years ago, nobody was drinking almond milk. Now it's everywhere.
That's true. So Coke needs to be thinking about what the next big thing will be.
Exactly, and they need to be ready to jump on it.
We also talked about acquisitions earlier. Could that be a way for them to quickly get into these new markets?
It could definitely be an option, but they have to be smart about it.
Yeah, they can't just buy any company they need to make sure it's a good fit.
Right, and they have to be able to integrate it into their existing operations.
So it's like a risky but potentially rewarding move.
Exactly. High risk, high reward, as they say.
And of course, we can't forget about all the external factors like the economy, inflation, supply chains.
Right. All that stuff can have a big impact on Coke's business.
It's a reminder that investing is about more than just picking stocks. It's about understanding the world.
Exactly. It's about seeing the bigger picture and how all these different forces are interconnected.
So for our listener who's been with us through this whole deep dive, what's the key takeaway here?
I think the biggest thing is that Coke is at a turning point. They have this amazing legacy, but they're also facing some serious challenges.
Yeah, it's not a clear-cut buy or sell. It's more like a wait and see.
Investors need to decide for themselves if they think Coke can adapt and thrive in this new environment.
So it's really about weighing the potential rewards against the risks.
Exactly, and doing your own research to make an informed decision.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the bottom of the bottle on this one.
Haha, yeah, I think we squeezed all the juice out of this topic.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Coca-Cola stock.
It's been a pleasure, and remember, always do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.